instruction, golf news, equipment, travel, interviews, course profiles, and more. Your weekly fix of all things golf is about to begin. It's the Flagstick Podcast with your hosts, Jeff Potter and Scott McLeod. All right, well, we've been off for a week, one episode.
Yeah.
This is the Flagstick Podcast with Jeff Potter and Scott McLeod, presented again by Golf PEI. Golf Prince Edward Island is a premier Canadian golf destination boasting the most number of golf courses per capita in the country, with over 400 fairways, closer than you can imagine, top-tier accommodations, and exquisite culinary experience. It is the easiest golf vacation you will ever book. Book your golf vacations and tee times at golfpei.ca. Hopefully you are following across all social media networks. If not, you should be: Instagram, X, TikTok, and Facebook. Please subscribe on Spotify, Audible, Amazon Music, and Apple Podcasts. And of course, we encourage you to subscribe to the YouTube channel, frequent it, like us, click the notification bell, make sure you never miss a single episode or anything else that we put up there. Speaking of Golf PEI, I did notice.
Did you see the marathon?
Yeah. That was cool. That was cool.
It is cool. So what we're talking about is Golf PEI. So Sam McPhail, the executive director from Golf PEI, and Ben King, who's GM main man for a group that runs Green Gables, Forest Hills, Mountain Woods, Anderson Creek. They do a golf marathon. They did it last year. They did 7 courses last year, 9 holes at each. I happened to get there right at the very end and kind of hang out for the last 9 holes. And they did it again this year. And the first part of their video is up. We have it posted up on our website as well, if you want to have a look there. And part 2 is just out as well. So we'll post that in another post so that you can catch the highlights in the film of that. That'd be fun to do, wouldn't it?
Yes, it would be.
Yeah,
it would be very fun to do.
Now it's a challenge to do in some places. Now they have the luxury of the golf courses being close to each other. So
I think we could pull it off. Because, I mean, when you think about the furthest golf course within, like, call it the Flagstick region. I mean, if you look at flagstick.com region, well, that would mean going across Canada,
well,
United States,
let's just say Eastern
but,
Ontario, Western.
Yeah, I mean, we could pull that off because, I mean, the furthest golf course away might be 2.5 hours, 3 hours.
Yeah, but
top.
The thing is, if you're doing 6 9-holers, I mean, they're optimally trying to be 20 minutes kind of from each course.
Right. Well, you could do you could do the National Capital Golf Marathon.
Yeah.
Then you're basically just sticking within the National Capital Region, which puts pretty much every golf course within a very short distance, or a majority of them within a very short distance of one another.
Yeah, all you have to do is pick, kind of 6 golf courses, and they're doing, 54 holes is basically what you're doing in the day, but you have the travel time and stuff, and obviously the accommodation for, other people on the golf course. You got to kind of work around it. They are doing filming and so forth. But yeah, it's sun up to sundown, and yeah, that I wouldn't mind doing that. And you know what? That would sort of play into our 100th show. We talked about playing 54 holes in a day, and the fact we haven't done that in a long time.
There you go. Look at you picking up pieces from a previous episode.
So anyways,
nice. All right.
If you want to catch that, go to flagstick.com. You can catch episode 1 there, and then we'll have episode 2 up there as well.
All right. Sounds like something we should put in the memory bank. Okay.
There we go.
Well, it has been a couple of weeks since the last podcast. Scott's been on the road, doing some President's Cup and doing some product viewing / hobnobbing with people at Adidas.
Yep.
Adidas.
I
did not put this shirt on specifically for the fact that I was about to plug Adidas for some reason, but it just by chance.
I just thought you put on the whites for Rafael Nadal, retiring, and you wanted to have some sort of tennis look to you today or something.
No,
not the case. All right,
just
checking.
I didn't even know he retired.
Rando. There you go.
I had no idea.
All right.
Yeah. Anyway, so we're going to get into a little bit of the current events talk, see what's going on, because it has been a couple of weeks. So there's a few things to kind of get you caught up on.
Yeah.
But on the back nine, we're going to discuss sort of the reality of golf right now in much of Canada. This time of year, it is getting colder. The days are getting much shorter. What are you doing? What do we do to adjust to play better in the cooler weather? cooler and wet weather.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to talk
Definitely.
about that. There's
Yeah,
a few things. We have some experience in that area of playing in some very nasty weather
sure.
and cold.
Yeah, and
Um,
I get this question. We get this question all the time. People, message us on, various platforms and just say, "Hey, I'm kind of new to golf. What kind of adjustments do I make?" And we forget about it because we played golf for so many decades. But when someone's new to the game, they're kind of not understanding what's happening and why all of a sudden their golf game looks differently. But there are ways to deal with it, and that's what we're
yes, and
going
the
to talk
golf
about.
game does look different. We'll talk about that. We will
Yeah,
talk about
for
that.
sure.
All right. Well, let's get to the front nine presented by Metcalf Golf Club. A natural setting, a pleasant challenge. Of course, there is still lots of golf to be played this year. So you can still purchase your 10, 20, and 30 game passes and keep saving compared to regular green fees. Visit metcalfgolf.com to book tee times and to shop now. Um, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Do you like my cup today? I don't know if you can
What do
see
you got
this.
there? Well, it's kind of blurring out. Put it in front of your face.
Uh,
There you go.
hmm,
There you go. I can't really see it. Oh, coffee makes me murdery.
less murdery.
I can't read the last part.
Coffee
Coffee
makes me
makes me
less
murdery. I think the
murdery.
intent is that it's supposed to say coffee makes me murdery,
Yeah,
and the
but this is
less is
the
supposed to be
less.
the I'm making this cup sound like it's actually okay to say this.
Exactly. There you go. So, but as we know, we need our coffee.
It's like if I had a T-shirt that said "I am a
Yes.
great golfer" and "great" was in small letters, and it said "golfer." It said "I am a golfer," as opposed to "I am a great golfer," because I'm not a great golfer. See the
Are
irony
any
of
of
that?
us? Yeah.
Okay, President's Cup.
Yes,
Well, and
sir.
can we address the elephant in the room here for those watching on say like I just look at I'm not saying that it's nice to have this back in my office again, this Ping Challenge Cup trophy. I'm not
Yeah.
saying that it's nice to have it back in my office, but I'm just saying that it is back in my office.
It
Therefore,
is. It
if it
is.
is back in my office, then that means that it is now in my possession for another 12 months.
Yes.
Okay, I'm just making that clear to people that are watching on YouTube and
Yeah.
clear to people who are listening that I'm describing the immense size of the trophy that is behind me that
Uh,
says Ping Challenge Cup on the front of it.
Yeah, and if people are
Okay.
not aware, the Ping Challenge Cup is a Ryder Cup style event between the PGA of Canada Ottawa zone head professionals and assistant professionals, held a couple weeks ago at Smuggler's Glen. And the head pros are now up 9-5 all time in the competition, 12 on 12, and the head pros under Jeff's captaincy. Um,
Expert
oh,
captains.
sorry. Is that part of the deal? Is that
I don't know.
I didn't know what the
We were
rules
just
were.
talking about this off air, saying,
Yeah.
honestly,
Uh,
not that we don't take any of the credit away from us, but we really don't do anything.
hey, making
We make the
pairings,
pairings, and maybe
hanging
we
out,
we 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 get it right. As
maybe.
far as the matches, maybe we do, maybe we don't.
Yeah.
Yeah, but ultimately, these players have to play golf, and
Yeah,
they're pretty
exactly.
decent golfers. So it's kind of
Yeah.
you know.
Last I checked, we don't hit a shot except for the 1 year where I subbed in
Mm-hmm.
on the assistant team. But otherwise, you don't have anything to do with it, even as a
You,
captain.
rah
So,
rah rah.
yeah, and I think that that lends itself over when people's talking about things like Ryder Cup, President's Cup, or whatever, and laying blame and stuff like that. In the end, the players have to hit the shots, as was the
Oh
case in
yeah.
the President's Cup at Royal Montreal.
Well, let's talk about that President's Cup for a second. You went.
Yeah,
So we want to talk about sort of your experience being there live versus
yeah.
the experience that I might have had watching it on TV.
Hmm.
Um, you
I
know,
think what's interesting. So I was there on the Sunday for the last round. We were fortunate to have Chris Stevenson type in words for us down there, and Grant Fraser was getting some photos and stuff. And I whisked in there on on Sunday. So thanks to those guys as far as providing the coverage for flagstick.com during the week. So my experience was a little bit different. I came in sort of as a spectator almost. I did have my media credential, but I wasn't really making use of it. And sort of I was going around and being more of a spectator there and seeing how you see it from a hospitality suite for on the rope lines, all sorts of different things. And people have to understand President's Cups, Solheim Cups, Ryder Cups, all these different things. It's small groups on the golf course. So there's everybody that's there is following just a few people. That's what it really comes down to. And so that means it's a little bit more congested. I will say this, and then I'd love to hear your take on it, of what
Mm-hmm.
you saw when you watched it from TV. The atmosphere was really cool. It was loud, especially around that first tee. I mean, that first tee, whatever there was, 4,000, 4,500 seats around the first tee. Much different than 2007 when I was there, when, there was maybe 300, 400 people could sit on the seating. It was loud. The introductions were great. They had the music going. The fans were kind of fired up and so forth. On the golf course, it was maybe a little bit harder at Royal Montreal to kind of see. A lot of elevated greens there, so you couldn't quite see if putts were going in or not. You sort of went from the reaction of, the other spectators. I saw a lot of spectators having to look up to the TV screens to see kind of what was happening, which is kind of weird when people are there. So you got the buzz, you got the feel for everything that was happening. But I wouldn't say it was the best golf course for the viewing experience as far as live. It was good from just the experience, I guess, more than anything. And I think Ryan Hart and their team did a great job with that. Hospitality suites were pumping. There was lots of people making noise from those, enjoying themselves, having a great time. Whether people had a great interest in watching the matches or not, it really varied by a lot. Obviously, there was hardcore golfers there, but there's other people that were just there from a hospitality standpoint. Overall, I would give it a good experience as far as attending. But from a viewing and trying to see what was happening or follow the play, pretty difficult.
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of torn on this because I do like watching. I have attended a fair bit of live golf events, whether it's President's Cup, which I have been to, RBC Canadian Open, which I have been to, the Skins game
Sure.
when they had it back at up at Tremblant,
Yep.
the Export A Inc. Skins game. Can't do that anymore. Um,
No.
and those were all really good experiences. Now, the last time that I attended a Canadian Open at Royal Montreal,
Mm-hmm.
back when Tiger participated in his first first Canadian Open. And I appreciate the atmosphere that can be created by at a live event, and I appreciate the sort of how you can get sucked into that a little bit. I still prefer watching golf on TV. I mean, I
Yeah.
think I still prefer watching most sporting events on TV, and I don't think that it's the
Interesting.
watching of the event that live that gets me. It's the experience within the venue that is
Yep.
what sort of gets you, not the because I go to if I go to a Sens game here in Ottawa, if I go to a Sens game, an
Sure.
NHL game, um, you get sucked into all that cheering and the music and
Right.
the
Yeah.
stuff in between the whistles and the stuff in between the periods and hanging out with your buddies and all the people around you. If you've got a full building, you get sucked into that side of it.
Mm.
The hockey to me is much easier to watch on TV.
Yeah.
Just as the golf
You stay
on
more
the golf,
focused on
yeah, the
what's
golf
actually
to me
happening.
is easier
Yeah.
to watch on TV, provided you have good coverage. Now, there's some
Right.
golf on TV that is terrible coverage, and there has been in the past. There's been some big events that have had bad TV coverage and where they're focusing too much on a couple of groups only, and so you're not
Fair
really
enough.
getting to see a whole lot more
Yeah.
golf. And I would rather, when we did the RBC Canadian Open at Hamilton Country Club in Ancaster one year, and we floated around a bit, but we actually for a period of time parked ourselves on the back of a par five on the
Yeah.
back of the green on the side of a hill. It's like a little kind
Mm-hmm.
of an amphitheater, and we watched guys hit shots into this hole, and we watched them putt out, and then we turned around and watched them tee off on the next hole. And it was kind of at one area, and we could see everybody come through,
Yeah. Yeah.
and then we jump over to another hole and watch a hole like a par three or something like that, and then we jump back over and watch some more groups come, and eventually you make your way down to the 18th. Yeah, but on TV you get to see all of it. You
Mm.
get to see all the holes, the majority of the holes. You get to see more players. You get to see more close-up
Yeah.
shots. So you're talking about the vantage points and the viewing
Mm-hmm.
experience. I didn't have any problem watching putts.
Yeah.
Obviously, watching it on TV. Now, Did I watch it on TV? Eh, I watched a
Not a lot.
bit. I
Yeah,
certainly I would put it in the same class as far as watching it. I'd probably put it in the same class as when I watched the Solheim Cup.
sure.
You
Yeah.
know, I watched the
Uh,
first. I didn't
yeah.
really watch much of the first day. I watched a
Yeah.
fair bit of the second day when the internationals kind of came back and made it an event.
Hmm.
And then I
Yeah. If
didn't
it's not
really.
competitive, it's not as exciting. I will say this. Um, you know, I'm probably jaded a little bit because I've had the opportunity to be around a lot of these players, watch them play live and so forth. So, a lot of people were enjoying that experience of being near their heroes, the people that they've maybe only seen on TV before, watching them warm up on the range, getting an opportunity to see them actually live. So I can certainly see the appeal that way. So again, that's different from how I may view it or whatever. The competitive aspect, and I think that's what you're starting to talk about it there
Yeah.
a little bit, is a challenge for sure. If you don't feel that there's an opportunity for things to change, that there's some drama that's there, it's hard to get involved emotionally. I mean, we were watching, and obviously for a point there on Sunday early on, the internationals were kind of putting up some points. They were leading some matches. I won't say putting up points. They were leading some matches. They had the opportunity where they could potentially maybe turn some things. But once it got to a point where you realized this is a very low probability that anything good is going to
And
happen
you
here,
tune out.
and you could tune out, and I could sense that as well. Even even when you went into the media room and stuff, and you see the people there, the media members were scrambling to trying to find storylines to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
And because the storyline was obviously not going to be how close things were or whatever. It
Mm-mm.
was going to be whatever nuggets they could dig out of it, to create something
So
that they
why?
could.
Okay, so here's the thing. Why? Why is this international team? Why are they not competitive? Why are they like? I mean, these are not bad golfers. I mean, let's be
No.
honest here. Like, you can look at their world rankings and say what you want to say about their world rankings and all that
Hmm.
kind of stuff. But
Sure.
there's there's PGA Tour winners on
Hmm.
that
Sure.
team. There's
Yeah.
even the Canadians. There's PGA Tour winners there.
Hmm.
There's guys that are top. Like,
Yeah. But here's
there's.
the thing: you can play and win a PGA Tour event and play very poorly for kind of a large part of the season. I think the players that are on that US side are more consistent over a longer period of time. So you're talking about fractions here, and especially when it
Hmm.
comes down to matches, it can be one putt, two putts, or whatever. And and not using just the world rankings as a way to look at them, but if you look at their overall records and how consistent those players, there's a reason why they're higher up in the rankings, because they're more consistent over a longer period of time. So they're
Hmm.
gaining more points. So these are the fractions that make it different. So the only proposal, and I mean, I've heard lots of different proposals. I mean, they obviously have to play better. That's the only way that you
Hmm.
can think about it, as far as, it's 13-1-1 now, as far as for the US. um, I don't know if the PGA Tour is going to change that, because again, they own the property and what they do. The only proposal that I saw that was somewhat interesting, and I've seen lots of proposals as far as LPGA and stuff like this or whatever, but the only one that I saw was interesting was Eamon Lynch, at Golf Week, had a proposal for the PGA Tour if they want to retain sort of the money aspect of it and make things sort of interesting, is to sell off the opposition team to a bidder, doesn't matter who it is, that could put together, and it could be a live body, it could be a whatever body, international, it could be whatever, and they put together whatever team that they want to take on the US. And in that way, I don't know how they work it out from the business standpoint, revenue share, whatever the case may be, but that might be the only opportunity to get a more competitive team there, because it's not going to get more competitive. It's unlikely to. It's possible it could swing that way, but it hasn't shown it that way in whatever 25 years. So the internationals need the Cam Smiths of the world. They need, you know what I mean? They need the Joaquin Niemans. They need those players if they're going to stand a chance at all. And I have to think at some point, no matter what the PGA Tour does, at some point, fans are going to start tuning out, because it doesn't matter how much promotion is thrown at them or whatever. If it's a dud match, even if it's some of your favorite players, the appeal is going to be less and
It
less.
is interesting that you
That's
bring
my
that up
opinion.
because there are a fair number of international players that are top ranked or would be top ranked international players in the world that are playing live right now.
Sure.
And they like enough good ones, enough
Yeah, I mentioned
solid
two
players that it
strong ones right there.
yeah,
Yeah.
that might make a significant difference in the
Hmm.
competitiveness of the international team.
Yeah.
Now, you know, I did hear, some people criticizing some of Mike Weir's decisions as a captain, and as we alluded to, or as we talked about right off the when we were talking about the Payne Challenge Cup and our involvement there.
Hmm.
I realize that there's, Mike Weir's a captain, picking the team strategy, all that kind of stuff, but
It doesn't have a
you
lot
can
of
put all
influence.
the strategy into it that
Yeah.
you want. And
Yeah.
ultimately, these guys have got to play golf. And
Yeah.
I don't really think it matters who plays with who or who plays with whom
Yeah.
in these situations. That it's about playing golf, and you can say, well,
Mm.
this guy's traditionally has a hits 85% of the fairways, and then on
Yeah.
that particular weekend of golf, he hits 20.
Yeah.
I mean, that's great. You
I,
put them
I, I
together, but
yeah.
it didn't mean anything. So why not
Yeah.
even just throw that kind of crap out the window and just put guys together? I heard, I was a little disappointed that Tom Kim didn't play against Scotty Scheffler.
Yeah, but I mean, is that just playing into some of the drama? I think when it comes down to it this way, um, I guess if we understand that really in most cases it's a showcase exhibition,
That is, yes.
and not meaningful as far as it's not a major, it's not, this does not determining people's lives or careers or whatever the case. If we understand that it's that's fine that we're willing to accept that. But that means as well though, if it's not a good enough exhibition that it's a little bit more even, that's a risk for the PGA Tour. That is a
I
risk
think it
for the
is
PGA
because you're
Tour.
risking that people are going to stop tuning in. And I mean, like I
Correct.
said, I mean, the first, like, I used to watch both of them, the President's Cup, the
Right.
Ryder Cup, the Solheim Cup. I watched them all. I love that team match play
Yeah.
competition stuff. But I mean, I'll be honest, the President's
Yeah.
Cup, I, I'm as
And
diehard a golf guy as anybody, and I just couldn't get
mm,
myself into it. Now, had it been closer on Sunday, I might have watched
yeah.
a little more. But if it's
Yeah.
not close,
Yeah.
then
And
it's not a
and look
competition,
and look at how,
an
and
exhibition.
I'll use social media as a barometer. Look at the difference between Thursday and Friday,
Hmm.
when all of a sudden Thursday, it's a 5-0 blowout
Yeah.
and people are like, "Oh, turn out the lights, it's over," or whatever. And I'm sure organizers, all sorts of different people, whatever, going, "Oh, this is not good," or whatever. And then all of a sudden it swings 100% the other way on day two. And then people all of a sudden change all their attitudes and what this is going to be about. And then obviously as you work towards the conclusion and what was going to happen and eventually did happen, you could obviously probably tell that people's interest may have waned a little bit more. And I haven't looked to see what viewing numbers and stuff like that are, but I would imagine there's a point on Sunday where there's a major drop off where people are going to go, you know what, I'm just going to, and they would anyways, because they're going to turn over to the football or whatever the case may be or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But again, I think I think we have to temper our expectations of what this really is. And then on the other side of it, the PGA Tour has to decide what they want to get out of that. So,
And
anyways,
I did hear, in case anybody is thinking it, I did hear some rumblings that Friday was a gift. So
I think that's
that's a stretch, in my opinion. That's
that's a stretch.
you're grasping
Yeah,
at you're
yeah,
grasping at straws there.
yeah. I think that's a
If you think
tin
that's
hat conspiracy theory
yeah,
in my mind.
just a little
So,
bit, just a little
yeah,
bit.
yeah, exactly.
Okay.
All right,
Well, we just chatted a whole bunch on that.
that's all good.
Do we got well, you know what,
What do we got?
we still got about 9 minutes here, so
Let's
I
roll.
think we can
Why don't
push
we
through
roll through a
these.
couple of these?
Okay,
Yeah,
so World Junior Girls Championship was held at Credit Valley Golf Club,
yeah,
and unfortunately Team Canada lost in a tiebreaker
yeah. Unfortunately, it's
to Team Korea. The course was in uh, crazy good condition considering the post flood that they had there earlier this summer. um,
Yeah.
But
Do you want me to comment? I mean, I
yeah, yeah,
popped in
yeah,
there.
yeah. Quickly give it a comment there.
Yeah, so I popped in there for a couple hours to follow during the final round. Team Canada won. They had two teams in there, but Team Canada won was up by 6 for a while there.
Wow.
Just struggled a little bit near the end. It was a little bit difficult because that golf course was soft. As you said, they had a big flood earlier in the summer, did a remarkable job getting ready for this, but this golf course was longer and softer, and that really stressed some of the skills for some of those players, especially on Team Canada too. Young players, great players, obviously have a lot of skills, but if they're used to playing slightly shorter golf courses, when all of a sudden you've got some big pressure on them, much more difficult. I really don't love the tiebreaker. I get it; they all agree that's how it's going to end or whatever, but I had unfortunately to leave just as they were getting to the kind of the conclusion of it. Team Canada was up 1, and then I was kind of keeping tabs on it, and then I was really hoping they'd have some sort of playoff format, but a tiebreaker, not so great. But a good showing in any case. For Canada, they won last year and now a second this year. But kudos to everyone at Credit Valley, Golf Canada, Golf Ontario for running a successful event.
There you go. Okay, Carol Ann Baxter, our beloved Carol Ann Baxter, pretty much runs the show at the PGA Ottawa zone. She was recently inducted into the Cornwall Sports Hall of Fame in the builder category. So congratulations to Carol Ann on that, with such a great honor, accolade to receive. And I'm sure that was an easy decision for Cornwall Sports Hall of Fame.
Second, she was in the South Stormont Sports Hall of Fame as well. So kudos to her. She's done a lot of work in the golf industry for a long time.
Now at the PGA of Ottawa, we just talked about the PGA of Ottawa has named its annual awards finalists. There's a number of different categories that they have 3 finalists in each category, and those award presentations will be taking place on October the 16th at the Westin Hotel during their merchandise, the BPG merchandise buying show, where the pros go to purchase their pre-order their merchandise for next season. They'll do the full awards there, as well as handing out the hardware to the winners of the various tournaments on the Flagstick.com PGA of Ottawa Zone Tour, Players Tour. And the full list of all of the nominees for each of the categories is available, of course, at Flagstick.com.
You got it.
OVGA wrapped up the year with the Tournament of Champions at Highlands Golf Club on September 30th / October 1st. Full wrap-up of that event is at flagstick.com as well. But notably on the women's side, Amelia McFarland won in a playoff with Lise Jubinville. This is the 15-year-old. Is the youngest to win this event since who? Brooke
Henderson. Yeah, Brooke did it when she was 13, believe it or not.
Yes. Now let's not get ahead of ourselves.
Let's not.
We're not putting Amelia on that pedestal just yet. But Amelia's a fantastic player, 15 years old, to win that event and to win in a playoff against Lise Jubinville. That's
great accomplishment. And let's just isolate it and think of it as that, and just sit back and watch her develop as a player. She's done some great things this year. It's been a good year for her, and looking forward to following her progress.
Yeah. So now, Scott, a little bit of gear news. I like this. I'll throw this in here. A little bit of gear news as we wrap up this front nine on the Flagstick podcast. But let's talk a little bit about what True Temper's got going on, because this might shock a few people.
Yeah, they've True Temper, which most people will know is a golf shaft company, and on their True side of it, people are familiar with it in hockey circles or whatever. They've announced their entry into the golf grip market for the public. Now, I've known about this for quite some time, just because we have some ties, some friends that work in a True Temper. So basically what they've got is, this is their new grip. I've got one sample right here. This is the Icon, and I think it's almost been 3 years now they've been developing this. What people don't know is that they've been developing grips and producing some of the grips for like original equipment manufacturers for several years. They're now trying to go onto the public side of it. The full ramp up is going to be in January. Like I said, I've got some samples, going to do some testing and so forth, but that's big. It's a huge company. There are a number of major manufacturers within the grip business, but True Temper being the icon, see that they are within the golf industry, for them to jump into the grip business is very notable. And they've always obviously already have relationships with a lot of club builders and aftermarket, club fitters, and that will be big for them as far as those products. And chances are you'll probably see more models from them as the time moves on.
There you go. All right. Big news from True Temper.
Yeah.
The icon. I like that. All right. We're going to take a break. Of course, we are. We always do. We're going to take a break. When we come back, Scott and I are going to talk a little bit about fall golf and a bunch of different things about it, not necessarily just the turning of the leaves. So stay with us. You're listening to the Flagstick Podcast with Jeff Potter and Scott McLeod.
When you golf on Prince Edward Island, there are over 400 fairways closer than you can imagine. Not to mention countless miles of pristine beaches and a rich world-class culinary experience. So get here fast, then take it slow and play around on Island Time. Golf Prince Edward Island.
All right, well, welcome back to the Flagstick Podcast with Jeff Potter and Scott McLeod. Well, the front nine is complete. My coffee is cleaned up off the floor, as is the broken pieces of my coffee cup. I have reloaded. I have reloaded.
Oh, new cup. All right. Mm-hmm. Yeah, let's see how breakable this one is. I have
the coffee. It's got a wide bottom, so it'd be harder to slide. And during the break, I managed to get myself a muffin, a blueberry muffin out of the kitchen. So
yeah, well, when I think about it, yeah, you did that, and all I could think of right away is in my brain, as weird as it is, I was counting the number of times I maybe spilled a drink during a podcast.
I can't say as I ever have, to be honest with you. I think that's the first time, but that one was kind of shocking. Nobody that isn't watching it, the video of the podcast would know that anything happened, because when it fell, I did kind of jump back a little bit and look down, and then tried to keep going with a straight face, but there definitely was a bit of it was almost empty, so that's actually a good thing. Thank God it wasn't a full cup of coffee, because that would have been, well, we probably would be coming back from break a lot later.
It would be
to the average person, it wouldn't look like the break was any longer, but
no, for sure. So anyway. A tragedy just for the loss of coffee more than anything.
Exactly. All right. So all right, well, let's get to Let's get to the back nine, Scott. Presented this week by Falcon Ridge Golf Club. 27 holes of challenging golf at great rates. Falcon Ridge is a golfing experience you cannot avoid, and the experience got even better when they built the first TrackMan Range facility in Eastern Ontario. TrackMan Range is all about exciting, easy-to-use features that provide the ultimate range experience for every golfer at every level. That is practice, games, and virtual golf. To book tee times or to book one of the 10 TrackMan Range bays, visit falconridgegolf.ca. And should be noted that as we dive into, discussion about fall golf, Falcon Ridge would soon be prepping their clubhouse for the winter version, or the off-season version of their TrackMan setup, where they'll have 4 TrackMan sims in the inside, which are always busy.
Which means also, people should note at this point, we will be updating our indoor winter golf directory pretty soon.
Yes.
And there are a lot more locations to be added to that. So keep an eye on Flagstick.com.
Yeah, it's big. It's an ever-changing world, especially down your way, but we won't get into discussing all that right now. But we will say this: as we transition into the off season, the Flagstick Academy will be transitioning as well. And again, we'll get into discussing what's going to happen, but what is going to happen is that as we get closer to wrapping up our series of outdoor golf instruction with our friends at Castleview Golf and Country Club, we will be adding our golf instruction indoors for the off season, starting very soon. As a matter of fact, we haven't started shooting yet, but we will be starting shooting indoors for those instruction tips. So the Flagstick Academy will not stop. Will not stop during the off seasons.
Yes. So there you go.
Okay.
So that's enough of a hint, I think, for people. So. but we still
Yeah.
have outdoor golf to play.
Yeah, we got tons of outdoor golf to play, and we're going to talk about that right now. We're going to talk about fall ball.
Fall ball. That's how I like to call it.
I thought it was a spelling mistake at first.
No.
It's kind of like a little teleprompter thing that we got going.
Yeah.
We kind of, for every podcast, we get our sort of notes laid out. Scott's got his stuff, and I'm reading. I'm kind of like the Ron Burgundy of the podcast. So I got to be very careful because I very much am off the teleprompter or off the notes.
Oh, got to put something in there sometime that is going to be very embarrassing. So
he's and I'm fearful of that. So when I see something like him, he has fall ball. I'm like, okay, is this real? Is he trying to get me on something? But yeah, this is legit. Yeah. It's not a wrong.
Notice he will read my spelling mistakes.
Go, you know what yourself, San Diego.
There you go.
Okay, so let's start with the premise.
Yeah.
Do we like fall golf?
Hey, it's golf. You know what I mean?
You like golf.
For me, obviously, right? It's obviously not as comfortable or whatever, but I love the scenery. I mean, I was fortunate last week to be in Mont Tremblant with the colors and the
that would be nice up there. This
foliage. Yeah, it's damn impressive. That's for sure. I don't like obviously cold temperatures, but
no,
I will say this, and we can get into it. We may change the style of scoring of how we play to adjust for the weather. But in general, yeah, you know what? I'll take as much golf as I can before the snow flies, or while the snow flies.
Yeah, we're not afraid of the snow either. So no, I'm the same way. I'll take as much golf as can be played, because if I'm playing golf in this climate, then that means there's not very much snow, if any at all, on the ground, and that makes me happy.
Yeah.
So,
and we're probably good at have a good month or so left of solid golf. I've heard, a few golf courses, closing the end of October, but they're more like private golf courses, more on the public side. I would say some of them had said, here's our dates. We're going to kind of a week into November. But if the weather's good, we're just going to keep on cranking. So there's still time. But that also means, as we referenced earlier, that sometimes you have to make a little bit of an adjustment for slightly different conditions.
I mean, yes, and I think the things that you need to be considering most are adjusting for cooler weather, because it is going to be colder. You're not going to be playing in 24-degree weather. Wetter conditions. Traditionally, we get a little bit more rain, a little bit softer ground conditions. One that you have to take into consideration that a lot of golf courses around here is you have to take into consideration the leaves.
Yeah.
You have to kind of, a lot of us when we play, we have a leaf rule. Some golf courses have massive leaf blowers that they put on the backs of their tractors or their gators or whatever, and they go up and down the fairways and blow the leaves into the woods.
I still think a lot of golf courses, if they're a public golf course, should consider putting a small hand leaf blower available by each of the greens in the fall season, just to give you the chance to kind of blow off the ground and do it quickly. Because otherwise you get there and you watch somebody in front of you like cleaning off all the leaves to find a path to putt. And we see that with in the fall scrambles. I've seen guys where all of a sudden you jump on and they've got a portable leaf blower.
Oh god, yeah, like that's a norm for guys that are playing. For the players that play golf every day, like the regular diehards, in the carts. They have a leaf blower in the back of the cart. They got the Ego battery powered leaf blower in the back of the cart, and they're like it's part of their golf bag. It's like their 15th club.
Yeah,
or
and I understand that would be pretty
expensive.
Yeah, it'd be pretty expensive for a golf course to have 18 of those.
And, for sure, because that's a couple
but I could see
dollars.
But I could see that at a private club or something like that. Where
you should keep in mind if you are putting a leaf blower in your golf bag and going out, to play golf, you do need to remove a club.
That's your 15th. That's your 14th. That's your club.
That's the 14 club. So,
and remember, those batteries don't last as long in the cold temperatures. So.
No. You do need to remove a club from your bag. So,
having played lots of wet weather conditions, cooler weather conditions, soft weather conditions, whether it be here or on road trips and stuff like that, what are kind of some of the things? And let's look at it from the premise of a new golfer and what they need to do to adjust. That you can't just throw on the shorts, throw on your polo, walk out the door and expect to play quite as well, maybe, what are the sort of things that you might want to start
Well, what's the general rule of thumb, Scott, when you're playing golf in wet or cold weather? It is a lot easier to cool down than it is to warm up.
Of course, 100%.
You got to layer up. You got to start warm. You got to have multiple layers that can be peeled off throughout the round of golf. Rain pants, rain jacket is the ultimate on top of everything else, or a wind shirt with the waterproof wind shirt of some kind to cut down on the wind. So if you want to wear shorts, like I've seen this, you go out in one of those days where you're starting off and it's like 8 degrees out, but the weather says that it's going to hit 14 or 15. And that's going to hit sunny sometime in the middle of your round. You're like, oh my God, I'm going to be sweating if I'm wearing pants or whatever. Then wear your shorts,
put them underneath,
and put them underneath your rain pants.
Yeah,
and then that way you just pull the rain pants off and you got your shorts on if it gets too warm.
Yeah. I would say that where you're hinting at there or whatever is there's a greater variance normally during that 4 hours that you're going to play. You as you said, you might be starting in cold weather, it gets up warm and then might be cool again by the time you finish up. So there is definitely going to be more variance, so you got to prepare for that. And I think most manufacturers now, as far as clothing manufacturers, they understand that performance aspect of it. So you might have a long sleeve underlayer on, then a polo on top of that, then maybe a wind shirt on top of that if you need a warmer piece or whatever. And as you said, just layer up, layer down, make yourself comfortable, because if you're not comfortable, and I think the option too, when people look at things like vests are very good, or anything that is sleeveless, because one of the greatest restrictions that people have when they just put on a big bulky jacket or even just a rain jacket is just the immobility in their arms and so forth. And the products are better, they're stretchier and so forth, but I would say looking at something from a vest perspective is certainly worthwhile for sure.
Love the vest.
Vests are great. And there's tons of great ones out there for sure. Okay, so layer up clothing, obviously we know that's a big deal. What else? Bingo.
Well, let's talk about your golf ball.
Do you change? I mean, again, that's a question we used to get at the retail level. People are like, oh, do I change my golf ball for the season? No, this is not mandatory.
No,
right?
But here's the thing: the things to consider with as far as changing the ball is, number one, performance. If you are an avid, golfer, and you're not concerned about losing an expensive ball in the leaves, then sure, play the same ball you've been playing,
or plugging in the ground. That one happens.
Go ahead and take your $65-$70 a dozen golf balls and lose 4 a round just because you can't find it, not because you hit a bad shot,
which is frustrating.
Or you could switch to a less expensive still. I mean, and even now, we consider less expensive. Back in the day, less expensive meant going out and hitting a rock. That's not the case anymore. You can get a less expensive, softer ball that performs similar to what you're playing now, like your more expensive balls, your better quality ball. But you can get a softer, less expensive ball and then not have to worry as much about it.
Yeah, because the thing is that, if you're looking at a premium urethane ball for the aspect of, say, stopping power for a spin rate or whatever.
Greens are wet.
Exactly.
You don't have to worry about stopping the ball. So
the ball is going to stop. So don't be shy about, doing something in the mid-level. I mean, I know, you play, as Rickson, for an example, and you look at a Q-Star in the kind of the middle, Titleist, maybe a Tour Soft, TaylorMade a Tour Response. Like there's a mid-level there that, is not a massive compromise. But again, if you feel like you're going to lose a few more golf balls or whatever, that is an option. I don't know about the color change aspect.
I don't like the color change this time of year, to be honest with you, because if you go to a yellow ball or an orange ball, well, what are you doing? You're basically choosing the color of the leaves. You're better off with a white ball.
I think some of the bright optic yellow ones are okay, but when I see people do like matte red and stuff like this, I'm like, There's no way I'm going to.
You might as well just walk into the pro shop and start handing out hundreds, because you're going to be paying golf balls. But
I would say yes. I mean, if you can make a little bit of an adjustment here, if it's really cold, like you said, getting a little bit of a softer ball so that it doesn't feel as firm, just to kind of retain the same sort of feel that you like. I think some people may dive too deep into this from a performance perspective, but it can make a difference as we start to talk about, distance and so forth. And that's something we'll get to in a bit here. So.
Yeah. Okay. So let's talk about, a little less about distance and more about lofts. So
which time is distance related.
Yeah. I mean, it ultimately changes it. Loft up.
Yeah. You're
not getting any roll, right? So
right, exactly. So if you want to get some distance, you're gonna have to, kind of do it in the air more than anything. And hey, you know what? This is probably not a bad thing for most people all the time as it is. I still get a lot of people, or I hear a lot of people going, "Oh, I hit my ball way too high," and I'm like going, "Yeah, that's half the height of what a PGA Tour player or an LPGA Tour player is hitting it." I think you can actually get in the air a little bit more. But yeah, don't be shy. We have adjustable hosels now in hybrids, fairway woods, drivers, and so forth. So here's your opportunity to get that carry distance so that you can retain some distance. If you are a player who obviously gets the ball rolling along the ground, and now you go from firm summer fairways to soft fall fairways, then this might be something you need to look at and just play around with a little bit. And you don't have to necessarily jump on a launch monitor and get a fitting for it or whatever. It's a short season, it's a few weeks, but don't be shy about playing around, getting get that tool out there and make a couple of adjustments.
Well, that's the thing too. So when you're looking at loft, how far you hit it, and I'm not a PGA Tour pro or anything like that, but in the summer months, you can get away with a lower lofted. Talk about the driver. You can get away with a lower lofted driver because you're going to get a lot more roll out of it.
Right.
But people think that because they add loft to their driver, now they're going to hit. They're not going to hit it as far.
Right.
They don't realize that if you're hitting a 10-degree driver or a 9.5-degree driver, and you switch to a 10.5 or an 11-degree driver, that you're actually, in fact, carrying the ball likely further.
Certainly could.
In the summer, you might not be hitting it farther.
Correct.
But this time of year, you'll be carrying the ball farther by maybe 5 yards, maybe 4 yards, maybe whatever
the case.
You're not going to get the roll. So
yeah,
you might carry your 9-degree driver 200 yards and roll it out to 250. But your 10.5-degree driver, you're going to carry it 210, 220, and you're going to roll it out to 221.
Yeah, and I'm always
219.
Shocked. Yeah, and there's lots of factors and things that play into it or whatever, but I'm always surprised when people are like, "Oh, I'm not hitting it as far." And I'm like, "It's 5 Celsius out and it's October 24th. What are you expecting? You're also wearing 5 layers of clothing." You know what I mean? So we have to start to think about that and change our expectations. And I didn't put it into here, but when we look at stroke play and what stroke averages are, there's a reason why the official golf season sort of ends at a certain date, because we know that scoring is going to be affected and changes. And I know one thing that we have done a lot over the years that, again, is not on our list here or whatever, but switch the format, play some match play.
Oh yeah, definitely.
You don't necessarily have to play stroke play and frustrate yourself, because all of a sudden your stroke average goes up because of abnormal conditions is really what it amounts to. But play the person that you're playing, and double beats triple. And don't worry about what your total score is. You're just going to frustrate yourself more than anything.
Yeah, big time. Yeah. Let's talk about shoes for a second.
Yeah. Big one.
This has changed a lot over the years, because if you go back 20 years or 25 years or even further back than that, the last thing that you would really want to be doing this time of year, or even when it's raining or anything like that, is wearing that old school leather golf shoe, like that would absorb water or the because they get heavy and clunky.
Yeah, but I guess the only advantage they had was they had metal spikes in them. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, but your feet would get soaked. I mean,
you could, but you obviously want to have something that's waterproof. You change from we have a lot of summer shoes that are available now. Right?
Nowadays, though, there's a lot more options in that area where you get you get some of these shoes. Like I know one of Brandon's pair of golf shoes have a very meshy.
Yes, they're more of a summer shoe. Yeah.
So you're going to
Or
wear
upper,
that. You're
the
not
upper
going to
is
wear
more
that
mesh.
when it's raining out, as you
Right. They're
discovered at
designed more for
Cataraqua.
when it's designed when it's warmer out, it's hotter out, your
dry.
foot's going to sweat a little bit more, it's dry out. Your feet are going to get wet if it rains more and stuff like that. So
yeah,
but yeah, for sure. And I think we're seeing more people now, and this is not to say everybody's going to have this option, because a lot of people just have one pair of golf shoes, if they have a pair of golf shoes at all. But if you do have that luxury and have the option to have a second pair of golf shoes, maybe you have something for the summer, maybe you have something that's more for spring and fall. So one suggests not white. It was funny. I saw a video, I think it was last year, of a couple different media people or whatever, and they were out playing in the fall, and they're like, "Oh, my shoes are getting destroyed." Or like, yeah, you're wearing bright white shoes and it's super muddy out. It's not going to be a good thing. The other side here is the grip aspect of it, and that has to do with more of the softer ground. We work against the ground in trying to make our golf swings and creating power. And if you're slipping all over the place or sinking into the ground, you don't have the same level of stability, so your speed is going to be less. So this is where it's important that those comfortable summer shoes that you're talking about a little bit, that may be super spikeless and really good, that you can take on the course to off the course, you're wearing them right from the fairways to the bar, they may not be so great in this time of year. You may want something that has we'll call it it's a spike. It's not a metal spike, but plastic spikes. You might want to have something that has plastic spikes, as you mentioned, waterproof, a little bit more durability. We see some people wearing, mid tops or high tops this time of year, keep moisture out. You're more prone to have puddles and stuff out there. So it has not only a difference on your performance, it also has a difference on your comfort level as well.
Yeah,
because once your feet get wet and it's 5 degrees out and you've stepped in a puddle on the second hole,
game over.
Yeah, that's not going to be fun rest of your round. And you really, going back to the layering, you just want to stay comfortable this time of year and be able to enjoy the outside and not be shivering and thinking, oh man, I just got to get to the clubhouse, and you still have 16 holes left to go.
Yeah.
Does not make for a great experience. So
been there, done that.
Yeah, that's for sure. So yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about adjustments that you might have to make into how you play certain shots. Now, we talked about lofting up, as far as being able to try to get a little bit more carry yardage off the tee. And we didn't talk about, we kind of skipped over playing different shots to manage wind and so on and so forth. So again, this is all encompassing, really. Bunker play is another big one. Chances are the sand in the bunkers is going to be a lot firmer, and it's going to be a lot wetter. For sure. So that fluffy sand that you might be used to hitting out of at your club or at the course that you play on a regular basis, you're not going to get in there, and you're not going to be able to splash the ball out by taking 2 inches of 2.5 inches of sand behind the ball.
Unless you're really, really strong.
This is going to get a lot more difficult, because you are essentially, catching the ball just a little bit behind. It really increases the risks of blading the ball, or topping it for some people.
I mean, for these shots, you're just going to have to be a little bit closer to the surface, and we won't say. So here's the thing: you have a choice. You can basically, if you're used to hitting it a number of inches behind the hole or behind the ball and using that to push the golf ball out, you got to think of it vertically, and you got to think of it laterally. So a lot of people, as you say, if they all of a sudden try to hit very close to the golf ball, they really risk having some really bad results this way. So what I would suggest for people is take care of things from a vertical standpoint. So in other words, if you're used to in the summer, it's deeper, you want to catch a lot of sand, you dig in by a lot, don't dig in quite as much when you have a wet bunker. And as a result of that, the club is not going to be as low to the ground. You're actually going to catch less sand. And in effect, you're going to be able to get through the sand a little bit better, even if you hit your normal position behind the golf ball as it is. So those are adjustments you sort of have to make. Otherwise, you're just going to end up, having to hit the shot again more than anything. And, if you don't have the luxury to kind of change up, wedges with more bounce or whatever the case, this is a kind of an adjustment that is a little bit helpful this way. And yeah, it makes more difference too in your ball striking. Got to remember, if you're out on the fairway and you have soft ground, you're sinking more into the ground, you're more likely to have an arc height that's close to the ground and catch the turf. So be more conscious about the ability to kind of stay on top of the surface, as we'll call it, and try to feel like you're almost picking the ball a little bit more as opposed to catching the turf.
Exactly. It's something just for people to consider, just an average, is that when you're standing on top of the ground, your swing arc has a certain bottom out point. If you're standing on wet ground and you sink like you half an inch into the ground because the ground is wet, well, now you're the same swing that you always make now has the same bottoming out point, but now that bottoming out point is going to be further behind the ball because you're lower into the ground. So remember that. And if you have to choke up on the club in order to accommodate for how far you are, instead of hitting a bunker shot, you see guys that get in there, they dig their feet into the ground and choke down on the club or choke up on it, however you want to put it. It's because they're sinking their feet into the ground to accommodate for stability. But when you do that, you're now changing the bottom of the arc of your swing. So
exactly.
Okay, one last thing, adjusting yardages. You kind of put like we'll call it the formula for adjusting yardages in cold weather is saying for every 10 degrees in Fahrenheit, below 75, the average carry distance drops 2 yards. So this is data that's provided by Ping. Ping data. It's approximate. It's not exact. But take it for what it's worth. If you're standing at 150 yards and you normally hit club X, take into account that if it's cold out, that you're probably going to lose a couple of yards or more on that shot just because of the temperature. And that's the indicative not just of this time of year too. That's period. You get days where it's cold outside, or you're playing like a round of golf late evening, and in the late evening sometimes the weather gets a little cooler, so you're out there and you start your round of golf at 2 o'clock in the afternoon or 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and it's nice and warm and sunny out, and you're I'm hitting my 7-iron from 165. Then you get to your end of your back nine, your last few holes, and the temperature's dropped by 10 degrees. And then you're sitting there at 165, you hit your 7-iron, it comes up short, and you start complaining about, oh, wow, hitting the 7. Well, that's why, because the temperature dropped, therefore your ball is not going to carry as far. And that's what happens this time of year.
Yeah, and you're right. I mean, people all of a sudden get upset. They're losing yardage or whatever, and they're, what else is going on? And this is just for that. I mean, obviously, if their striking is compromised, any other thing that can obviously affect as well. But just understand, these are not normal conditions, and they are going to change. So, as you said, when you go out first thing in the morning, you might be hitting a 9-iron, again, this time of year when you're doing your layer up change, you go out and it's 5 Celsius. And then, by the time you get to, later in the day, it goes up to 18. Well, guess what? It's not just you, and people will say, oh, well, I wasn't moving very fast. It was cooled out or whatever. It's actual physical as far as the, how the air is and the air density and so forth affecting the golf ball. And how long it's going to be carried. So
the physical properties of the golf ball change too.
Yes, true. Yeah, for sure. So I mean, you've got multiple factors that are right there. So as a result of it, just try to make some adjustments and realize that you might have. Hey, it's good advice anyways for most average golfers. Take a little bit more club. Chances are you don't hit it as far as you do. And hey, if you're all of a sudden flying greens, maybe make some adjustments. But if you're not hitting greens and you're coming up short all the time, you probably need to take a little bit more club anyways. So
there you go.
All right, there's a lot of things.
We certainly could go on and on and on and on about about things that you can do fall golf related. We'll leave it at that. Just focus on those things. Make sure you layer up to stay warm. It's always easier. Like I said, it's always easier to cool down than it is to warm up. Once you're cold, you're cold.
Yeah,
it's very hard to get warm. Make sure you focus on your distance. Loft up your driver if you can. If you have adjustable driver, make a little loft adjustment, help you get more carry out of it. You got to learn to play some different shots. This time of year, you got to keep the ball down a little bit more. You got to hit it a little bit higher. So again, coming back to that loft up. Get a good pair of shoes for this time of year, something comfortable, something waterproof, something that can hold on to the turf a little bit better, and make sure you adjust your yardages, because when it gets colder, you don't hit it as far as you think you do, which is what most of us do every day, thinking that we hit it farther than we actually do. All right. So on that note, now that I've insulted our audience, we'll leave it there.
Darn facts.
Yeah, episode 101 of the Flagstick podcast. Jeff insults audience before signing off. Great. All right. Well, thank you to you, the listener, for tuning into us. Thanks to our sponsors, Metcalf Golf Club, Falcon Ridge Golf Club, and of course our presenting sponsor, Golf PEI. Golf Prince Edward Island is a premier Canadian golf destination, boasting the most number of golf courses per capita in our great country. With over 400 fairways closer than you can imagine, top-tier accommodation, and exquisite culinary experiences, this is the easiest golf vacation you will ever book. Book vacations at golfpei.ca. Well, I'm glad you're tuning in, hearing, watching, listening, whatever you're doing. Be sure to follow us across all of the social media networks, Instagram, X, and Facebook, TikTok, and subscribe on Spotify, Audible, Amazon Music, and Apple Podcasts. Do not forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Like us, click the notification bell, make sure that you never miss any bit of content we put up there, especially the Flagstick Academy, which, as we mentioned, is going to continue all winter long. Get over to flagstick.com for more amazing, great golf content delivered every single day. And be sure to subscribe to the newsletter, Flagstick Digest. Get this information sent to your inbox 3 times a week. You'll stay on top of everything that's going on, first and foremost. As always, we do appreciate you tuning in. But until next week, I am Jeff Botter.
I'm Scott McLeod.
Always remember, go for the stakes.